Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Becoming Music. 7 weeks of drumming and sound healing to harmonize emotions and accelerate personal mastery. I'm Lisa Bonhis, and I'm really looking forward to this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Christine Stevens and address questions about her upcoming 7-week course, Becoming Music, which begins Tuesday, March 3rd. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if you can't be there live. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Christine Stevens is an internationally acclaimed speaker, author, drummer, and music therapist. Holding master's degrees in both social work and music therapy, Christine inspires people all over the world with her message that music promotes holistic health, spirituality, and wellness. Christine taught her Shift Network courses, Awaken Your Rhythm and Awaken Your Healing Rhythm, to over 1,000 students from 36 countries last year. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Christine, who's going to begin our session with some drumming. Welcome, Christine. It's great to see you again.
Hi, Lisa. Hello, every musical being that's on this call. I was preparing for this conversation today, and the 2 words came in: stay tuned. Not like the future, like stay tuned, more is coming, but stay tuned in this moment. How do we be in tune? We are a human instrument. How do we tune ourselves? How do we use sound for developing our emotional expression and our personal mastery? And that's what we're excited about with the course Becoming Music. So let's begin. I have my iPad here. One thing that I'm going to teach in this class, and anybody who's listening right now can do, with different apps, you can really create your own internal orchestra of improvisational support for music expression. So I like to use the iTampura. I tuned it to the sound of my drum. So this is just a beautiful invocation to receive. Hand on heart. Whether you're holding a drum, you are a drum. We are all incubated in rhythm. And the drum shows up when people are transforming. So right now in this moment, what is changing in you? In your heart, the drum of your heart, and just connecting that to the drum, that intention, to stay grounded, and also to feel that inner shift that comes when we embody music in greater levels of beauty, love, creativity, openness, releasing, and connecting to community. You can just visualize that you're being encircled by sound. Just pulling that sound into your physical body, your emotional body, where you need it right now. Along, feeling the music in your body. Yeah. Just take a breath and feel into the sacred silence. Take a full breath. Notice how much more your lungs might be more expanded. You might feel your breath more deeply, more calmly, more openly. When we relax, we breathe better. Drumming is not a breath instrument, so it's important to remember to take a breath in the silence that follows the rhythm. That's a special silence. Right after that beat ends and we feel the quietude. And a lot of times I drum my way into meditation, and I think that's a way to stay tuned, is to explore the rhythm and the movement and the stillness and the silence, the polarities of music medicine. Aho.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Christine, for creating such a groovy space for our time together. This is going to be awesome. We're going to go ahead and dive into some questions for Christine as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, that's called Becoming Music, and I think we just got a little taste of that. And it begins Tuesday, March 3rd. If you want to check out the website and learn about the 7-week course, you can visit becomingmusiccourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with some questions. If you have a question for Christine, go ahead and type it in. I'll be happy to read them out loud. And I'd like to start with a question that has already come in. And this is a really big question, but that's what the course is about. It's basically, what does the vibration of music do to the body?
Some of the strongest understanding of that has to do with the vibrotactile stimulation. I know this very well from my own work in the music therapy field. And it is just very, live sonic energy is going to have a vibration. And when you hold the drum up over your body, one thing I like about the frame drums and the shaman drums is if we turn them so that the mouth of the drum is facing our body, we give ourselves a massage. So one key thing that the music does and sound does is it vibrates us. And that feels good. I mean, it's like an internal ultrasound. It just gives us, it's called an ultrasound for a reason in medicine. It gives us a massage. It is a sonic massaging. It's why sound baths are so important right now, very popular in yoga studios. And there's also another level of your question, which is the subtle body. When I use my rattles, sorry, I have to bend down and get instruments, but I use my rattles. We're getting into the new moon time right now. It's a great time to think about planting seeds. And we use that to clear space around us. So what is that vibration doing? It's shifting in subtle body vibration, an aura field. I'm clearing that field with sound, right? I can feel that. And we charge our instruments by using them in ceremonies. And the instruments are my toolkit, they are my instruments of my shamanic practice, my healing practice, my awakening practice. And the other answer to this great question is, what happens when we tone for our subtle body and our inner body, our own physiological body, is that we feel just like a lullaby. We feel like an internal soothing and a recalibration. So my personal experience with this has to do with a time in my life when I was really about 8 years ago falling apart, which is common when you start to have awakening symptoms. And I felt disoriented. Everything was so vibrant and alive. It was hard to perceive life because I was having a real experience of awakening. And I would lay down on the bed about every day and put an eye pillow over my eyes, darken the room, take a deep breath. You can do this with me right now, and just let a note come through without conscious thought. Whatever note that is, finding my note, it felt like it was recalibrating me. It's a word I love because we use that with or tuning, an auto tuning function on a synthesizer. I was recalibrating. I was integrating. I think integration through sound happens a lot in our somatic body. The other thing that happens with vibration is we can release pain. When we have pain and we have tightness, we put our instruments over that, or we tone with our hand on that part of our body and we start to feel it open. One of the great researchers on trauma, Vessel van der Kolk, I just heard a webinar with him. He recommends singing for all his trauma patients. And he said, I don't know, it's something about singing just opens people up like nothing else. So we want to be opening. We want to be living our lives like well-tuned instruments showing up for the symphony of life, like a real experience of integrated, in-tune musicality. So that's a short answer. And I always want to mention that vibration is not always a positive experience. When we have sound that hurts our ears, it can be damaging. I don't go to any concerts anymore without my musician high definition earplugs because there is a level where decibels become damaging to our ears. So sound pollution happens as well. And our interest in this course in becoming music is identifying that personal journey for you through this medicine wheel of music, through the 4 directions, the 4 elements of nature and sound. So great question. Thank you.
You brought up a really interesting point. Let me go ahead and throw an extra question. You were talking about sound pollution. Like, for example, this morning there's somebody doing construction somewhere in my neighborhood. I don't know where, but I'm hearing all this banging, pounding, and, I'm being as zen about it as I possibly can. And I know that other people deal with this. How do you deal with that type of sound? How do you become zen when somebody's hammering away at the next building over?
There's 2 approaches to that. One is earplugs, literally trying to tune it out, or headphones and listening to music. The other approach is to find the rhythm of the banging and make music out of it. And there's a great story of Rumi, the great Sufi love poet, who created the dervish practice because it is said that he heard the music in the hammer, the beat of the hammer in a crowded market. And he heard the pattern. And if you've ever noticed, most people, when they're hammering, they follow a beat. Most of the times when we walk, we follow a beat. We want to be in rhythm. We want to be in time. So the pollution or the non-healing sound happens when we're out of rhythm, or it's an ongoing and then it stops and it goes. That sort of randomness can be irritating. Don't think it's not. Don't try to out-zen it. I mean, it's really a thing. Go somewhere else to work those days. That's what I do when there's construction next door. I actually go somewhere else in the daytime because it's challenging when it's that kind of drill sound. So just being conscious of sound makes us go, oh yeah, right. Now I get why I didn't concentrate as well that day, or I was more agitated that day. It might have actually not been from inside me. It might have been in the field of the sound around me.
All right. Well, thank you for addressing that just thrown at you question. I appreciate that. Let's get back to the topic here. And I know you're expecting this question because people ask this all the time with regard to the course. What is the best instrument that they can have? Do they need a drum? Can they make their own? Let's just address that whole big picture topic.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to do an online course where we're using instruments. And in this course, we're taking our jumping point off from drums, and we're going to go into things like flutes and voice, which we all have, and harmonic instruments. I have my kalimba to show today to say, I'll be showing some instruments that I recommend, because how I choose an instrument is 2 things. 1, no wrong notes. Yay! I can play this, anything. I could close my eyes. I love to take this instrument to the ocean and play with the rhythm of the waves. So the answer is you are an instrument. You can make many found sounds can create percussion and drums. And we have a video on the Shift Network and on my YouTube channel, UB Drum Circles. You can check that out. It shows you how to make found sounds. Water jug drums are great. So we're in a whole world of the potential of making our own sounds. I found this seed pod in my community at the grocery store in the parking lot, and I decorated it. So finding instruments, found sounds, creating instruments, but mostly I want you to feel really welcomed to this because your heart is your drum, your voice is your melody. And this experience is about activating something that gets dormant in us, mostly because we're not in a musical culture and we often don't have time, or we feel like we're not musical. If there's any survivors of piano lessons out there, like me, right? And actually, this is about intuitive music making. It's intuitive, it's healing, it's spiritual, and it's awakening. It's a very different stream, much older, deeper wisdom stream. It's one of the oldest lineages of humanity is sound, right? Before language. So we're really tapping something so ancient. I will also have a guide for you with instruments and a video that I recommend. You can peruse that, and you just might find a companion instrument you've been longing for. I think it's so important. My whole life I played piano and saxophone and I played lots of different instruments, but it's important to find the ones that fit for my spiritual practice, my meditation practice. That's different than other things I have played. So there might be something new for you to befriend. You might have an instrument in the closet that you never even thought of, like, oh my gosh, that's right, I have that, old drum from Aunt, Irene, I should get it out. So it's a chance to reconnect to music in an instrument that you have or something you want to create or something you simply are.
Okay, perfect. That's very encouraging. And let me ask this one right now while it's still on topic. Jan wrote in, what is the instrument that you just played called? It was the little drum with it looked like the inside of a music box. That's
a great description for it. So this is called a Sansula kalimba, and it is a thumb piano. It's an African instrument made by Germans, which means it has precision tuning to it, which I love. And there's no wrong notes in the scale. And the other very powerful thing about this instrument is if you can text with your thumbs, you can play this because it's the same exact motor skill. This fits nicely over the heart. So it has a resonating chamber so that I can put it over my body. This is a very healing instrument, and one time I had all this grief in my heart and I had physical somatic pain, and this is the instrument that was placed over my heart, and people sang and played it and toned, and it was just like a huge healing experience for me. I never had that physical pain again. And I remember that experience thinking, how many people do we send to heart procedures that maybe have unprocessed grief like me or loss? So being able to activate our own inner expression. Then the answer about the drums, very specifically, one I love is the Medium Festival Djembe from Remo. I like this drum because Remo instruments are vegetarian, vegan, made in America, and that's all very good. No animal hides are used. They're synthetic, so they can be sterilized. They're approved by the Centers for Disease Control. They have a great sound, and that sound won't change whether I'm teaching in Arizona or I'm teaching in the Arctic, because it's a toned instrument, and it doesn't change by the weather, which is great. It's very lightweight, and this I can play across my lap style like a doumbek, or between my legs like an African style. So the medium-sized djembe is so easy for me to carry, lightweight. I really recommend this drum as a great hand drum. When you want to learn how to play the two-handed approaches to drumming, here's a quick demonstration. Doom, tak, tak-a-doom, tak, tak-a-doom, tak, tak-a-doom, cha, doom, tak, tak-a-doom, tak, tak-a-doom, tak, tak-a-doom, doom, tak, tak-a-doom, doom, tak, tak-a-doom, doom, tak. So this is a great hand drum. I also use my medicine drum. Some of you may have studied shamanism, and you already have a beautiful drum. This is the first drum I ever purchased 30 years ago, before I even knew what it was for in my life. Maybe you can relate to that. You ever bought an instrument not knowing why? So it just called me. I've put some things on this that have representation from ceremonies I've attended. And these kind of drums are wonderful for healing work, for this class, for power songs we're going to learn about. Like you have power animals, you have a power song. And we're going to learn about frame drums as well, are great. I like the Remo frame drums. They're also synthetic. And this is the oldest drum believed to be invented from the grain sieve, according to Lane Redmond's research, when the drummers were women. So those are some ideas for what to bring to the course. All you drummers, get ready to activate your voice, to connect to rhythm ensemble for harmony, and connect to silence. There are instruments of silence, singing bowls, bells, and the chime that I love the earth chime. So beautiful. Koji chimes, earth chime. So you play this around you. Someone was asking about vibration in the body. You can't help but start to smile. It's like angels singing around me. Don't you think it's interesting that angels are not always, but many angels are depicted playing instruments, right? They have a lute. They sometimes have a trumpet. They have a flute. They have a tambourine or a drum. And I think these are the elements of music medicine that we're going to learn: the melody, the rhythm, the harmony, and the silence. Okay, next question.
That's an interesting point. Thank you for sharing that one. Let's see. Let's go to a question here from Marilyn, who says, I've never been able to sing on key, so how can I tone?
Toning is the answer when you can't sing on key. Toning is the perfect thing. Trying to not worry about the external pitch. So what happens when people can't match a pitch from the outer auditory input is just plug your ears and find your note. And that's really what I did in my spiritual integration practice. I just laid down, and from the breath and the intention and the focus of what it was I was doing laying there every day, a note emerges. Our intuition is so incredibly brilliant, right? We just have to get out of the way and trust it. So instead of seeing that as a deficit, I would recommend that you feel the permission to find your note and tone. And toning means a sustained note. It is said that when you can sustain a note, you can hold your mind, right? So why is it the monks are chanting all over? Many different monk traditions, Franciscan, Tibetan, right? This toning practice. One of the books that I use a lot in my class is called The Music of Silence from David Steindl-Rast. And as a Franciscan monk, he talks a lot about the hours of the day and the different chanting that happened in the monastic life. And I'm a householder, right? I'm living in the world, a spiritual life in the world. And so I need those tools for how to tone, how to connect with the voice. Don't let that stop you from voicing Because what happens is you start to develop a, oh, I can't loop, when all along it's just a matter of giving more permission to your voice. So I say begin by finding your note. Don't try to match an outside note. Try to match an inside note.
Okay, well, let's move then into a somewhat related question. This is from Maureen, who says, I can't sing without being moved to tears. What does that say about how music is medicine for my soul?
You're alive. You feel the emotionality of your own voice. There's something, a principle in psychology called reunion grief, and my guess is you're experiencing it. It means that at the moment of reconnecting with something that we've been missing, we feel tears, which is counterintuitive. I should cry when I miss my girlfriend, but she's coming in tonight at the airplane and I go to pick her up and I hug her and that's when I cry. So sometimes when we sing, we connect to the emotions that we have been not knowing that we've missed, or the practice that we didn't know we missed. So when I first started leading drum circles like 30 years ago, people would come up to me crying with smiles on their faces. I thought that was really weird. They'd say, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm actually happy. This has been so powerful tonight. I don't know why I'm crying. And they'd look really confused. I'd say, oh, you're experiencing reunion grief. It could be because of being in a circle with people. It could be just playing the drum. It could be just the feeling of singing, what the heart needs to let out, right? And those tears are good. Those tears are good. Dr. Emoto studied those tears, and they look different in the crystals. From tears of joy and reunion, look different, tears of sadness and depression. I once helped somebody from hospice, bereavement, who had the experience that every time they sang, they cried only because that was a memory they had with the loved one they lost. So it's worth investigating to say, okay, what is it that singing reminds me of? What is being brought here for me to look at? And it's also potentially a reunion grief experience in which you should lean into it and sing more. Just get more Kleenexes. It's so funny how we think something must be wrong. So I say how it's healing how it's harmonizing for your soul is it's probably bringing you a soul retrieval and a reconnecting to some part of yourself that's been missing.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Christine Stevens, learning about her upcoming course, Becoming Music, which begins Tuesday, March 3rd. You can log on to becomingmusiccourse.com for all the details and to register. And let's get right back into some questions here. You're really coming up with some great answers here. This is kind of a complex question. Somebody's asking about which instruments are best for anxiety, depression, confusion, anger. So I know that there's a lot to talk about here, but just sort of address the overall picture if you could.
Sure. Let's just start with anxiety or depression. Let's start with depression and loss. That's a very strong experience for me with music and sound. So the first thing that I experienced that I do to figure out what instrument works for that, is if I'm going to use rhythm, I'm going to be connecting to something in my body. So I had some sadness and some depression over a loss. So I got the biggest, darkest drum I could find because that's the emotion I was feeling, the depression, the sadness. So it was kind of the size, the visual of the instrument as much as the sound. And I used that drum until I felt a shift from that emotion into another place. You can feel emotions open and shift, right? You can feel the intensity level, like a knob. Oh, okay, somebody's doing the sound check and the knob goes down a little. So in that choosing, it was an instrument that I could really relate to. I felt comfortable playing it. You don't want to hand yourself something complicated when you need to do emotional release. So I think the first rule of thumb is what is accessible for you to play. And it might be just your voice. Now that's so accessible. I had a really big healing experience in an oak grove once where I really released some very old, I knew it was old because it felt like the sound was coming out of my umbilical cord spot, my belly button. And this sound came out that I didn't even know how I made it. I was listening to it and just by myself releasing. So grateful for the forest where I could be noisy, And this sound coming out, just feeling like I could just make this sound. I didn't have an instrument with me and I could just do all this work anyways. So we can also just use our own human instrument, which I love, the availability of that, right? And then picking something that's accessible, picking something that matches the tonality. I call this orchestrating feelings. If I need to get angry, I'm not going to play a little kalimba and be all sweet. And that's the power of the polarity of the medicine wheel of music, is that we can use that drum and we can release pain and we can scream at the universe and scream down at the ocean with our drum. And then we can pause and we can play a singing bowl and we can connect to the polarity of rhythm and silence. So sometimes it's a two-part answer. How do I release anxiety? It might be letting it out with your hands on a drum. If you're a drummer, you feel comfortable with that. And then being able to slow it down. We're always modulating. We start where we are and we modulate. And at the end of that slowing down, you kind of go, what do I feel like I want to do now? Maybe I want to tone. Maybe I want to play the chime. Having a couple of two-part sonic journeys through our emotions is very beneficial. We want to get away from, there are general things I would say, like the drum is great for anger. I think we could all say that. The flute is great for heart emotions. When I would treat people in hospice and bereavement camps, I use the rain stick. Sounds from water help us with tears. In general, there's some rules like that, but also it's so individual. So it's always great to ask, sometimes in the asking we get the answer. To ask myself, I can ask myself, what instrument do I need to express my anxiety? What would help me let that out today? So great questions.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. And here's another great question for you. Here's one from Michael who says, is there a type of music that would attract abundance and prosperity?
Absolutely. Gratitude music. There's just so much research on gratitude and how blessing and being grateful for what we have and always creates space for more. Not coming from scarcity, but coming from abundance. To me, the word abundance has the word dance in it already. So, this is something to be celebrating and chanting and connecting. And so if I was going to put that into my drum, I would just hand on heart, connect to the feeling tone of abundance. I have everything I need. The place that I'm working at, I've been sharing a little bit more deeply in this next course in terms of my own process, because the Becoming Music wheel that we're going to go through in the 4 elements is something I've been living for the last 19 years and really perfecting. So I want to share more of myself. It's my growing edge in this next course. But one thing I would say for me is I'm working on feeling an abundance of time. I just did a 30 days of silence practice back in November. And oh my gosh, I felt the abundance of time. So holding your hand on your heart and feeling the abundance of what it is you're wanting, money, time, love, feeling grateful for what you already have. And then connecting that intention into the instrument. This preparation is really critical for connecting with emotional, manifesting and expressing, releasing and manifesting. What a great dynamic, releasing and bringing in, right? So feeling that abundance, and for me, that feels really joyful to feel like I'm connecting to abundance and gratitude. So I would be playing something kind of joyful. I was just talking to somebody this morning about the Irish jig feels so joyful. Abundance. to the whole world, that all people may feel they have everything they need. Releasing it out and bringing it back to the self, center. And closing that with just whatever tone comes. Oh, what a great question, because we got to do that, which is always good to do, is to connect to the energy of abundance. And the other thing I'll say about that is there's so many great songs and chants, depending on the spiritual tradition. The chant for Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of abundance. Oshun in the Orisha tradition, the Yoruban tradition, in Afro-Cuban, Afro-Haitian, and Afro-Brazilian traditions. She's my Orisha, and she's always full of gifts and beauty and honey. We give her honey as an offering. The other day I was thinking, how do I continue to be present for my spiritual path? And I felt guided to make an offerendum, an offering of gratitude for all that I have, and just being guided for that and making sound with it. And that might be your power sound. Your power song is a song about abundance. We need more of those songs. If you can't find one you love, write one. That's how I'll finish that answer.
That was beautiful. The tone I was thinking was woo. That was great.
Woo is a good mantra. Come on now. Woohoo!
Works for me. Awesome. So now I'm looking at the time. We have time for a few more questions. But before we get to those, I want to talk about the course itself. I'll give you some details because people are, of course, asking about that. Once again, it's called Becoming Music. And this is going to be obviously a really fun and powerful, life-changing 7-week journey with Christine, where you'll discover that just as power animals are sought through shamanic journeying, as she mentioned earlier, we all have power songs that strengthen, transform, and inspire us. The 7-week course takes place on Tuesdays at noon Pacific, starting Tuesday, March 3rd. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss any of the teachings because you will receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. Also, don't forget we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you until March 17th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Becoming Music bonus collection. First, you receive a video teaching from Christine entitled 4 Keys to Music for Wellness. And next, you'll get a guided audio practice from Christine called Awaken Your Inner Music. And then you'll receive an ebook excerpt by Christine entitled Music Medicine. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Saturday, February 22nd, you will receive this extra gift. And that is a music medicine compilation, 10 audio tracks from various artists that were exclusively curated by Christine just for you. So before we get back into the Q&A, Christine, let me ask you, what are you most jazzed about sharing in your upcoming course?
Well, that compilation bonus collection made me so happy. It's Grammy-winning artists. And I collected Mickey Hart for rhythm and Dave Stringer for devotional chanting, and Pepe La Danza from Argentina for meditation. He's a shakuhachi master for silence. And my friend Cynthia Fitzpatrick, whose album is called Flute Medicine. So you'll be experiencing people and Ricky Byers from Agape International Spiritual Center for gospel music, for songs that are, soul bumps and power songs. So I'm just really excited to be bringing, I think, something that goes from the springboard of drumming into these other arenas that grow us. I just feel like I received this amazing download, and I've been practicing it for many years, and I'm thrilled to bring this mandala of music, this medicine wheel of music into people's lives. We are living in a challenging time, and it's more and more important to know how to tune yourself, to stay tuned. And when we're ready to close, I want to close the call with a chant for staying tuned. That's how I think we'll end, is the stay tuned mantra.
All right, I will keep that in mind. So in the meantime, though, one of those bonuses that I mentioned was about medical music. And here's a question here from Amina, who says, how many times can I listen to medical music a day? And how many minutes or hours can I listen daily?
That's a great question. I have been testing that question on human subjects for a long time. So a few things I've discovered. One, when you're drumming along, it takes 4 minutes to play and feel that you've been trained. So don't give up on yourself. You pick up your drum and you're like, oh, I can't find a beat today. It takes 4 minutes to fall in if you're playing along with a recording or an app. Drum Jam, I love that app from Pete Lockett. So one answer is minimum 4 minutes. All my play along tracks are 7 minutes long, because I found that if we play a beat for 7 minutes, we experience this shift in our consciousness. We stop thinking. So many great studies on the brain on drums, how that changes us. But if it's just a listening practice, you can have a shift in as short as 4 minutes. If you sit and listen to a power song, for a while, my power song was the Gypsy Kings version of I Did It My Way. So it was like, la, 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 I did it my way. When I was going through a challenging time in my life, ended up quitting that job, and I was singing that song for myself, and that was just 4 minutes. So music has a very speedy half-life. If we thought of music as a pharmaceutical, we would say to ourselves, this has a fast life that's very quick. Why is that? The science of that is your auditory system is really tuned. We are animal brain. We have an animal brain, and we had to have auditory vigilance. So the response from our sound to our emotions is really fast. So we have a really speedy uptake. When we hear beauty, it ignites our pleasure centers in the brain. We get goosebumps without thinking. It happens immediately. One of the great studies that came out of the whole field of naltrexone, which is a opioid blocker for people with addiction treatment, was because they tested musical thrills as the tool, because they said the most immediate way to excite the body is a musical thrill. So it's immediate, it's quick. My personal practice is I have playlists that are an hour long. I have a playlist for re-entry when I come home from traveling. I have a playlist for devotional chanting playlists, and I change them up, but I have playlists to dance to sing to. And there's nothing like creating that playlist, because you are your own inner DJ of your own healing journey. You know what you love. Go there, says the Radiant Sutras. So when you make those playlists, you have them available to you. It can be as short as a 4-minute song. It can be as long as an hour. If it's drumming, it's 4 minutes minimum. 7 minutes is great. And if you want to go with the Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, 22-minute practice. That's always a great number for a spiritual practice, is 20 minutes to 22 minutes. So great question.
All right. Well, great answer. Thank you for that. And while we're on the topic of healing with medicine, Shirley wants to know, can we reset our brain neurology to heal from emotional things as well as physical things?
I think it's a different aspect, because if it's physical things, it might not be mentally based. So you can certainly reset your brain. It's just like we do, we think about doing a detox for our physical bodies. We do juicing, or we do a liver detox. Well, how do we detox our brain, right? For me, it's silence. That is the medicine of the energy of silence, the nature of air, the nature element of air, more breath in your life. If I want to reset my brain, I stop talking. I do some silence. And that in itself can be the most healing. It's called the medicine of resting. In music, silence is called a rest. I love that. It's a complete parallel to life. How do I create more silence in my life? So that's an important healing component for the brain to reset the mind.
Hey, good advice. Thank you. We got a question here from Charlotte who wants to know, do the 4 elements of nature reflect the 4 directions as used in shamanic practices?
In my understanding, in bringing this forth, which I've done a lot of study in its origin points, like Hazrat Inayat Khan's Music of Life book. He was a Sufi who came to one of the first Sufis to come to the West in the 1930s. All of these things keep pointing to this. My studies with the Lakota, Tibetan shamanism and Buddhism and Bon, and it's just consistent to me that the 4 elements of music match the medicine wheel. And I've aligned them with silence for air, earth for drums, fire for melody and the heart, and water for harmony. And I found so much correlation and corroboration of that. So my answer is, I wouldn't say like the definitive, da-da, yes. It's to say that in my limited experience of maybe 35 years and in working in war zones and disaster areas, which really educated me the most, and working in my own life and in different spiritual traditions, I do find a commonality that resonates with these sounds, these elements, and the medicine wheel. So yes, I've juxtaposed this within a consciousness, a cosmology of the medicine wheel, because I love the medicine wheel, and because I love the circle, the hoop, and I love the inner direction, the 7th direction, the within. And that's really where it all lands, is becoming music. It's the destination of this course, is where are we landing in our inner music?
All right, perfect. And I think that leads really well into the next question. This is from Anand, who says, if I felt the drum in my throat and heart chakra, what element does that indicate I need?
Rhythm. Rhythm. Because the drum is your body, and the throat, it's wonderful. The drum resonated your throat chakra and your heart. That's wonderful. Those are 2 really important centers. The tones that come from the Tibetan Buddhism tradition that I love to use, Om for the third eye, Ah for the throat, and Hum for the heart. So the mind of Buddha, the words of Buddha, the voice of Buddha, and the heart of Buddha. But you don't have to be Buddhist to believe that, to understand this or to practice this. It's just to say, what sound comes to the throat? What sound comes to the heart? How do we tone those chakras that resonated with the drum? But that's great that you found them through the rhythm. Wow. Awesome.
All right. Well, we have, we're almost out of time here, and I want to make sure that we do allow enough time for you to go ahead and do your closing exercise. So why don't we go ahead and do that now?
Okay. Well, I feel that this phrase, stay tuned, fits for us right now. And what I wanted to offer is a rhythm and chant that we can close with for all of you that are tuning yourself, because you are music. You are a human instrument. And when we connect to that, we begin to embody beauty, love, creativity, our personal mastery, which I think is really important, and finding a more immediate methodology of shifting through really difficult emotions and bliss. Let's not forget that. So we'll just hold our hand to our heart and connect to the intention of being tuned, becoming music, staying tuned, and pause, balancing rhythm and silence, and pause. And pause. with the healing, with the healing of the moon, the new moon. I am in tune with the healing, with the healing of the moon, of the stars, of the earth, of the fire, oh, of the water and the breath of air. I am in tune. Aho.
Right. And once again, woo! Well, this has just been such a fantastic hour with you, Christine. I always enjoy spending time with you. And I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your questions. Becoming Music starts Tuesday, March 3rd. And again, please visit Becoming Music course to learn more and to register. So, Christine, do you have any final thoughts before we cut you loose for the day?
May your heart sing a melody of love. May your body dance to the rhythm of life. May your soul harmonize with all your relations, and may your mind rest in the silence of peace. Ashe, namaste. I will see you at the course, Becoming Music. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Shift Network.
All right. And once again, thank you, Christine Stevens. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.